Hello, how are we doing? And welcome to the second episode of the Black Vault. I am the Dark Lord Seb, and I'm joined by Brett Lowski or Sylvanister. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing well today. How are you?
Yeah, I know I'm good. Excited to talk some more Blood Angels and say some few nice things about James Swallow, and then maybe not some not quite so nice things about James Swallow for balance and objectivity. So yeah, we're looking at that. We're going to look at Red Fury and Black Tide and the audio drama Bloodspire by Dunn. And then we'll look back over the Blood Angel Saga and see what makes it in and what doesn't make it into the Black Vault, because we didn't do that last week. So do you want to take us away, Brett, with Red Fury?
Alrighty. First book we're doing is Red Fury. It is the direct sequel to Deus Sanguinius. In it, the Blood Angels chapter is faced with the new problem of rebuilding their numbers after the debacle at Sabian and Archeo's little insurrection. And even from the beginning, there's a slight issue with that, which we'll actually get into later. But the first big important scene is where Chapter Master Dante, Chief Librarian Mephiston, and everyone and Anrathan are gathered with the highest-ranking officers of the chapter to discuss, this is the problem, what do we do? And what is settled upon is calling upon all of the Blood Angel Successor chapters to come to Baal and have a conclave where Dante presents his request, really, for each successor chapters to submit a tithe of recruits to help rebuild the Blood Angels' losses. Some chapters are agree with it, some don't, and yeah.
Yep. So they're on Baal. There are people who are agreeing, people who are not agreeing, and enter. Is it Cesus? Is that the guy's name?
I think it's Caicus or Saicus or something like that. One of those weird Space Marine names that are terrible to pronounce.
Indeed. Well, yeah, we always guess a pronunciation. So what does Cyril, as we call him, what's Cyril been up to?
Well, he was his idea for rebuilding the chapter was, for all intents and purposes, cloning. To vat grow a Blood Angel Space Marine from the get-go, not bother with the lengthy, training and induction and indoctrination process and all this other whatnot, to just grow a whole new Space Marine.
which isn't heretical or forbidden in any way, shape, or form.
And some people, even before Dante, is like, no. Some people will remember the Raven Guard during the Heresy tried the same thing. It didn't go so well. And the Raven Guard gene seed was a whole hell of a lot more stable than the Blood Angel seed. Which, as I think we discussed last time, the Blood Angel gene seed is about as unstable as a crack addict driving down the highway.
Yep, so Cyril's doing this cloning, which isn't really what it's supposed to be doing, and he gets a bit of help from an unexpected source, a random Magos, and
Yes, a random Magos by the name of Harren's Serpens, which comes out of nowhere, provides a great bit of help, and towards the end, he says, "Oh, I can really help you stabilize the gene seed and pull this project out of the dump. I just have a sample of Sanguinius's blood."
Because again, that's something that's perfectly reasonable. And
everyone's red flags should be flying.
Yep. So these guys work together, and the clones aren't very stable.
Yes. The conclave is going on. You have a lot of resistance to the tithe proposal by like the Flesh Terrors and a couple of others, and Caicus, very proud of himself and high on his plan, decides, hey, even though Dante told me not to, I've made fantastic progress with this, let's propose it. Dante's like, God damn it, Caicus, go the fuck back to the Apothecarian. And the rest of the chapter master's like, oh, no, let's hear it. And he brings out one of his specimens. After all the chapter masters are watching pit fights between, or duels. They call it duels, but we all know they're a fucking pit fight. Between, Space Marines of different chapters. And Rafin, I think he just got done with Gorn, or one of the Flesh Terrors.
I believe it's Nox, I think, yeah.
Nox, yeah. And he takes on this new, Blood Angel. And, Blood Angel in quotations, let me add. And the bout goes on like any duel from the get-go. This Blood Angel was a little faster, a little bit stronger, a little more quick on the uptake than he was expecting. But then, kind of out of nowhere, things start to go wrong. He goes a little mad, and then starts, mutating on the spot. And, yeah. Everything just goes downhill from there.
Yep. From that point, things basically go, why on earth were you doing that? You were told expressly not to do that. And now there's lots of them running amok. And as God of Nothing had a wild stab in the dark with its genetic materials, who could it possibly be? And yeah, Fabius Baal's wicked hands are mixed in the pie, which is always fun.
Yep, Harren Serpens was apparently, indeed, Fabius Baal. And his involvement in the project was entirely geared towards getting a sample of Sanguinius' blood. Now, these mutants are running rampant everywhere. To the point where what they're doing is the mutants are running around killing and eating everything they can. So now, more Blood Angels are dying. Many of their brother chapter guys are dying too. And it gets to the point where it becomes obvious that they're aiming for the sarcophagus of Sanguinius himself, where the biggest and nastiest of these mutants wants to drink the blood of Sanguinius and then basically make himself invincible. And
he has already drunk the Holy Grail before that, I believe, to get himself that pumped and ready. So yeah, all pumped up, and all of their that's the crazy thing. It's all of their blood, all of Sanguinius' blood, other than what's in the priest, which is kind of crazy. But sorry, you're leading us to the big last stand of justice.
Yeah, the big battle, where all the chapter masters of all the Blood Angel Successor chapters are now defending the sarcophagus of Sanguinius. And it's quite a spectacular fight, because anyone who knows a whole, something about the Blood Angels chapter master Dante, when he's in his battle armor, he's pretty fantastic looking. And you've got Mephiston, who's always fantastic looking. And then, you have all these, chapter masters of all these chapters, in one spot. And you'd think, oh, there's no way in hell these things can get to Sanguinius' body. And Yeah, so the battle ends up, the chapter masters are getting their asses handed to them to the point where it's literally Raven and his squad at the sarcophagus defending it. Where you've got, Dante, Gabriel, Seth, Castel and Zargo, everyone else, battling the lesser mutants, while the big mutant is trying to get to the sarcophagus. And in the end, they are defeated. The mutants are defeated, but not until they were right at the sarcophagus. And a few of the chapter masters were killed too. I forget which chapter master it was, but there was one that was in a dreadnought.
I think that's the Blood Swords. I'm trying to remember. I think it's him.
Yeah, I think it's the Blood Swords. Yeah, Lord Dagon of the Blood Swords was chapter master of, and he ends up getting killed. His sarcophagus torn open by the big mutant, and he pulls out what's left of his, emaciated corpse and gobbles it down.
And the Blood Angels come and save the day and form the last stand. Now, it's we have lots of nice things to say because it probably is the best book of this series when you say by a country mile. You've got yeah. Well, because basically you've got the big family reunion. You've got all the Successor chapters, lots of fun going on there. You've got Baal and all the interesting stuff going on with the blood research. The fact that Blood Angels have a whole wing just for blood research to against the curse is kind of crazy, but obvious when you think of how prevalent the Black Rage and Red Thirst are. But the big thing that we got ourselves in a debate about, other than how good the book is, and this is where you're better on the figures with this, Brett, so I want to hear your input. But with the battles from the last book and the losses suffered, we just still can't see how Dante needs to call this conclave, because some of the Successor chapters have got even less than the Blood Angels. The Flesh Terrors agree, and they've got nothing to give.
We discussed often about how after all the deaths of the Archeo insurrection, at the overwhelming outside most, and this is being generous, the Blood Angels lost maybe 2 companies, and even then, really that's being generous. They probably didn't even lose close to that, unless Mephiston showed up with 3 companies and not just 1.
But if that's the case, how on earth did they not just smash Archeo's little rebellion to pieces?
How on earth did they just not cut through Archeo and his, insurrectionists like a hot knife through butter? And then the Blood Angels are like, we need a tithe to help rebuild our numbers and all this other stuff. And you look at the Flesh Terrors, who they have 4 companies. If they, and even then, that's being generous. All those companies are under strength, and their death company is pretty extensive. So a point I wanted to bring up was, in truth, they really didn't lose that many guys. They really don't need this tithe. 1. 2, a lot of these chapters don't have that many. Case in point, the Flesh Terrors. And 3, some of these chapters, like the Flesh Terrors and I think it was maybe the Angels in Carmine, or I don't know, one of them. The Flesh Terrors and a couple of the others their gene steed is actually pretty unstable, even compared to the Blood Angels. So, what makes Dante think that this is that great of an idea? I mean, compared to Caicus's botched gene tech plan, different story, but still, there are a lot of holes in this whole thing.
You find yourself left with, the Codex Society says you need 1,000 guys That's what you need. Like, every chapter needs to be 1,000 strong. You do what Rowboat Gullyman said. But you look at the Successor chapters, they haven't got those numbers. And they still carry on fine. I know they're a first founding, the Blood Angels are like the most pompous and special of all the Space Marines. Unless you like any of the others. But you know what I mean. They're sort of seen as being haughty and respected and almost particularly devout and just up their own asses, really. Well, this is what we're trying to figure out, because they don't have that much of a personality still. It's only, I think one of the reasons this book really comes into its own is you actually get them next to their Successor chapters, and it's the personality of the Successor chapters that kind of differentiates them from the Blood Angels. Because the Blood Angels just kind of up their own asses in a way you'd expect from pre-heresy Emperor's Children. It's the only thing that really comes across. But then Wraithen isn't, and lots of others aren't. Yeah, well, Lamenters don't even get involved. Unfortunately, they didn't heed the call. They're still presumed lost.
They're too busy, half on a penitent crusade for siding with the secessionists in the Badab War and being eaten alive by the Tyranid.
And maybe asking them really would be a bridge too far, because it seems implausible to begin with.
Hey, let's get some traitor gene seed. Yeah, thanks. Next thing you know, the Inquisition and the Nova Marines show up. Oh, oops.
Well, see, this is one of the interesting things. We looked at, in Fluff Talk, the first episode, we looked into the Successor chapters in more depth. And so Red Fury includes, it was the Blood Swords, but the previous codexes don't. So it's a massive family reunion of even people that might not be part of the family. Which is interesting, but it's definitely the best book of this series. Anything else you want to kind of go into about this one? I kind of thought we were going to say nicer things about this one, but then we've still heard many criticisms.
Yeah, something that was really good about it was the interaction. Like, the story was really about the Blood Angels and the Flesh Terrors, because the most attention was dedicated to Wraithen and his squad and Nox and his squad. And it breathed life into the Flesh Terrors. And in doing so, it provided a contrast to the Blood Angels, to where Wraithen was very introspective, very calm, very thoughtful, whereas Nox and Gorn and Seth and all the other Flesh Terrors were much more aggressive, much more extroverted. They were much less finery. They were more, okay, let's do what has to be done. We don't have time to dick around.
They're a rough and ready bunch. They're just, yeah, as long as it works, it doesn't need to look pretty. And yeah, like you said, it's the Flesh Terrors, the Blood Angels, and the Blood Angels, we see a bit more of their art and the other things they do when they're not fighting, which is kind of almost seems odd that the Blood Angels are making sculptures and artistic pieces, and it's kind of that, and the ridiculousness of that leads to the initial aggressions between the Flesh Terrors and Blood Angels. But by the end, they've killed lots of Blood Fiends, they've had a few fights, and they're bum chums, which is good because it leads us into their the relationship they have in the next book. But yeah. Mm-hmm. So that is Red Fury. It's probably the best thing James Swallow's done outside of the Horus Heresy, even though he's committed some atrocities in the Horus Heresy that we might have a brief look at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you have anything you want to add on Red Fury before we move on to Black Tide?
Not really. Yeah, that's about it. I'm glad to be free of it.
So we'll move on to Black Tide. Now, Black Tide continues the story of Wraithen and his squad that he now has been given after all the wonderful things he's done in the previous books and getting mixed up in things. He's got a few of his previous squad mates who are now wearing the penitent marks on their faces for going along with Archeo. And yeah, basically it starts wonderfully with one flew over the Vespid's nest with a mad Tau who's been captured and experimented by Baal again, going by his own name this time, which is good. And yeah, Wraithen is just out with his people trying to track down Fabius Baal and reclaim the blood of Sanguinius that he stole. So yeah, we see the Mad Tau. He's too late to find him again. Then Nox and the Flesh Terrors show up. They want to get involved because Gabriel Seth has abnormally large ears for someone with so few people to hear things, and he's well aware that Baal's got the blood, even though the Blood Angels try to keep that a major secret, even though they've joined the family into one big close-knit group. So they join them. They head off to find a Magos who's been known to be dealing with the previous alias that Baal was going by. He has this huge ship called the Archaeotech, which, and we've complained that some of these books aren't grounded in the 40k universe enough, but on board the Archaeotech you've got Necron stuff, you've got stuff from the Blood Angels, you've got stuff from all sorts of different chapters and races and creeds. It turns out that's a bit of a trap, and this guy's gone crazy, even though he doesn't realise he's working with Baal.
The Archaeotech ship was, like, yeah, the Archaeotech ship was just nothing but one, you know, eccentric trap after another. Like,
almost expecting David Bowie to be, you know exactly where you are.
Yeah, it was really an example of an eccentric Magos gone wrong. And as much as that's a fun concept, it really was slowing down. It was really slowing down the story extensively.
Definitely. We spend quite a lot of time going through the Archaeotech, the traps, the things he's got, pillaging things, dealing with him, not dealing with him, tying him up. And then, wonderfully enough, for Black Tide, because I didn't realise that Black Tide, the name is quite a bit of a giveaway, but on board the Archaeotech they find the Nemos, or the Nemos, or however you're going to pronounce it. But essentially we go into Finding Nemo / the Poseidon Adventure, where they decide to launch a submarine from space onto Baal's planet, which is a lovely place, taken over by Tyranids, and then taken over by him, and yeah, it's got seas full of Tyranid sharks, which just sounds like a lot of fun.
Start.
Oh, yeah, so there's lots of sharks. There's the whole planet's surrounded by gun skulls, so they need to use this submarine to drop from space, which is just mental. Like, squeezing a squad of Space Marines in an Imperial Guard submarine. It's just madness. What are you doing, James? Seriously. But they drop down to 2,000 leagues beyond the sea, fight some sea krakens and some Tyranid sharks, which they somehow managed to get inside the submarine to fight, which is again quite interesting. But luckily Raffin is lost. Big Tyranid squid knocks him away, and he's captured by Baal on his wonderful island, which is effectively the island of Dr. Moreau, where he's keeping as many Space Marines that have been lost and he can keep his hands on, and experimenting them and torturing them. This includes putting a demonic Tyranid hybrid larvae inside their body, which a simple whistling or chanting can cause unbelievable amounts of pain and pretty much total paralysis, so that keeps everyone in check. But Raffin is the hero of this saga and of this tale, and in ways in many books which always never seem to be justified, manages to cause the revolution, and they rise up and fight and throw off their shackles.
Mm-hmm. It very much became the island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah.
Meets V for Vendetta.
It's just, yeah, it's kind of reminiscent of the first Black Ops game, when you rise from the darkness, from the gulag. Yeah. So, but the interesting thing that within that, you've got Doom Eagles, Stonehearts, Space Wolves, Taurons, and when you actually see Baal's armory, he's got the armor and gene seed and all sorts from pretty much everyone, and reveals that Baal's ultimate plan, and everyone knows what Baal's ultimate plan is, essentially, he wants to clone the Emperor using bits of all the other Space Marines and reverse engineering them. And yeah, essentially, the rest of the squad turn up and they save the day in a very Blood Angel-y, let's just save the day. I'm limited to what I really want to say about it, really, because I found the whole thing tedious and segmented. The Crazy Tower was amazing. Like, it started with so much potential.
Effectively, the book was one giant attempt at a fantastic 40k adventure that just became a ridiculous, eccentric something or other.
Cliche fest has got another thing that's being pointed out. And we know Baal is a cliche himself, but how many random sections and sort of things nicked from other stories can you have? It's, yeah. Black Tide does not hit the heady heights that Red Fury did, and it's just not a good thing. Like, yeah, it has its moments and it has its intrigues, but essentially, no. And it's made me question how nice I was about Deus Inguinius, because we were only as nice as we were about Deus Inguinius because Deus and Carmen was so awful. Now, Red Fury was great, and now Black Tide is awful, and that makes me feel that all sympathy for James Haller was gone. People said we were too nice to him last time. He has some great ideas and some great overarching storylines, and he can do some characters well. Baal, even though he's a walking cliche, is handled really well in Black Tide. I don't know how he manages that, but not the others. So yeah, I feel wonderful to be free of James Swallow and to be able to say some not so nice things about him, because Brett, would you agree? He is definitely not the greatest pen in the Black Library.
No, he's definitely not the sharpest blade in the arsenal.
And neither of the Blood Angels seemingly the most fun to portray and talk about. Where it just seems very odd. Seems very difficult.
Again, to be fair to James Swallow, because he's like I said, he's committed other writing crimes in 40k, but he's written a few very good ones, and I feel like the problem is partially him, but also in that the Blood Angels, I feel, are very difficult to represent, because I've attempted to write about the Blood Angels before myself, and I found that it's very difficult to capture what makes them Blood Angel, whereas it's much less difficult to capture what makes an Ultramarine, or a Space Wolf, or even a Flesh Terror is easy to represent, whereas a Blood Angel is much more difficult.
Definitely a tricky one. But the thing for me, the overarching thing for this saga is the fact that if you look here, this is the first omnibus with the art from Kate Langley, and this is the second omnibus with art from Kate Langley, and look at the detail and wonder and sumptuousness of those images, and the cover of a book should not outdo the contents. And with these omnibi, however you say them, they definitely do not. So how are you feeling? So Red Fury, does Red Fury make it into the vault, do we think, or?
I think Red Fury can go into the vault. As many problems as it had a lot of things going for it, like with the interaction between the Blood Angels and their successors. There's the sheen of their successors helped rub off on the Blood Angels and make them easier to deal with. Because Red Fury itself, it was easy to read and it was fun to read, whereas the other books were like pulling teeth. And at the end of a book, it needs to be easy to read.
Definitely. Well, it's got intrigue, which is nice. Because normally James Hawley's hit you in the face with a Blood Angels pauldron. Just look, there's Blood Angels, and they're fighting and doing stuff. Isn't that great? And they're quite pious. But this, you're like, ooh, interesting family gathering, and you don't even realise what it's all about for a while, which is again quite interesting. And even the mention of the Companitas at the beginning, the the chaotic cult that seems to
Yeah,
worm its way into...
Chaos cult at the beginning when Raven and his squad are summoning the flesh terrors. Yep.
Yep, they it spreads to the Imperium. People think, yeah, come and join. It's more of a brotherhood. We get be more equal, maybe a little bit more communistic like the Tau. But what happens is you end up being stuck together in amorphous, weird blobs and become giant piles of people that want to kill people, which is not really fun, to be honest. So Red Fury, just about, I think, now that we've looked at it again, just about scrapes into the vault. And that's the first book that's made it into the vault so far.
It makes it in by the skin of its teeth.
On the other hand, Black Tide, that can stay in the back library. No, that's not going in. It's just too many books trying to be one book and trying to be an interesting adventure and not carrying it off. So would you like to bring us into Bloodspire, which is the last Blood Angel thing we have to ever do, ever again. And they will be free of that legion.
Bloodspire is an audio drama written by C.Z. Dunn. In terms of a book, it's of course it's an audio book, so it's easier to deal with automatically. It's very interesting. Long story short, there's a hive world where one of the hives has embraced rebellion against the Imperium. Yet it's an interesting twist in that it wasn't some chaos cult rising up from the bowels of the underhive, or the regular people sick of being downtrodden and pissed on by the higher class. It was in fact the high class that was rebelling, and the Blood Angels show up to take care of business.
Why are they rebelling?
I actually don't remember.
Oh, there's lots of inbreeding, and they're through the higher classes, lots and lots of inbreeding, which means lots of psykers. So they're unhappy with their tithe.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, and they this hive appears to be particularly well defended. A little bit of a Krieg-style paranoia there, I sense. And so you have three separate groups of Blood Angels. You have the guys on the ground with the rhinos, the predators, the vindicators, the siege equipment, trying to blast their way in. You have the scouts, kinda, milling about, not doing much. And you have the assault guys, kinda milling about, not doing much, until someone comes up with a plan. Okay, how about this? We send the scouts up the hive, like climb the hive, rock climbing style, and open up an avenue for the assault guys to get in and take our business, while the guys on the ground, distract them. And that's pretty much what it becomes. You have the scouts climbing up the hive, and you have the assault guys in Thunderhawks, waiting to get up there and do the thing. The guys on the ground launch another attack, just the same as they've been doing for the past, day and a half. And an interesting scene was when the scouts are climbing, one of the traitor guardsmen pokes his head over a balcony, and he's just milling about, and one of the scouts puts a knife between his teeth, climbs up closer, pulls out the knife, whips it at him, gets him in the throat. The guy tumbles over, and I think the scout sergeant catches him, and so that his body doesn't land on the defenders below and alert them to something going on up above. And the scouts end up getting in, opening the corridor. The assault guys come in, tear through the defenders, rip apart the upper hive, and when all said and done, everyone throws down their guns and surrenders. And it was pretty cut and dry. In terms of a book, it was good. It was fun. It was exciting. It was very Space Marine. It's something the Space Marines would do. Maybe not quite so much a codex thing, but still it was workable. And but the only thing was, it didn't seem there was still nothing to make them Blood Angels. That easily could have been Ultramarines, Nova Marines. It could have been any chapter you wanted. And
which seems to be the bane of the Blood Angels, to be fair. Which it's a shame, because they're such a well-known chapter. Well, yeah, it's kind of similar to Raven Guard Tactics. It's all about the Assault Marines in the end. That kind of gives them a bit of a mention of the Blood Angels, because they do like their Assault Marines. But one of the things I thought was interesting is the planet does a quite impressive defense. Like that, this is a bunch of Blood Angels coming to bring the Emperor's wrath, and these are just essentially PDF Imperial Guardsmen. Like, how on earth are they holding up against that? What were your thoughts on that? Because I was shocked at how well they defended themselves.
To be completely honest, it's really not that hard to. Now, how to explain this? Defensive warfare is a very picky thing, but from what I remember, they had like adamantium walls, super thick adamantium walls, heavy gun turrets everywhere, and it's the kind of thing that Space Marines could overcome, but it was the kind of defenses that would need like a protracted siege. So, given that there weren't that many Blood Angels there, it makes sense that they were so hung up.
But it's one of their big tactics, isn't it? He's unhappy to waste men. He's happy to waste the machines, but he doesn't want. There's no need for any Blood Angel to die, so they want to do it in a way where no Blood Angel will die. So. Exactly.
They don't want, because if you were to have the Guard or the Iron Warriors attack that hive, it would be a big nasty attrition battle. That's because of how thick and heavy the defenses were. There's just no way for it not to be. Hence, they had to get crafty and crack it open effectively from the inside.
Yeah, fair enough. It's quite a short one. It's only literally about half an hour. As you said, there's some nice detail in it. There's some stuff going on. It's Bloodspire. It's an interesting piece. It does explain things to you, which people have complained about. I've read a few further reviews on it, and people are saying that it does explain about the apothecaries and about the assaults and about the scouts and all the things that we need, which is great for people that haven't read any 40k books before. But if you just want them to get on with it and get into the story, it doesn't quite have that for you. But the major thing it does have is it's CZ Dunn and not James Bloody Swallow. So Bloodspire. It's a quick, brief assault, scout, and rocket. Shoot 'em up. What happens when you don't do what the Imperium tells you to do? Because the Imperium are kind of dicks, as we've discussed many times. Chaos might be naughty, but we're both heretics. We know that. We've given our souls to Nurgle, and the Imperium is just not that nice. So so that's not going in, is it? I don't think it's going in. I give it. It's a fairly solid 3 out of 5.
It was a story, but yeah,
it's not. It's just not enough to get in, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
So is there anything particular you want to add about Bloodspire? Because it's kind of just there and then it's not. It's a brief, quick thing.
No, that's it.
So Bloodspire doesn't make it, Black Tide doesn't make it, but Red Fury did make it into the vault. We should have some kind of artwork for that. Maybe a kajunk kind of sound effect. Put it in the clunk and put it in the vault there. The art of the Omnibooks should go in the vault. Maybe just rip the cover off the Omnibooks and put that in the vault. I think that's worth it. We've already said in Carmine that it's still awful. After reading all the books, and Carmine still says awful and still doesn't end up getting in. Do you want to add anything about Carmine now I brought it back, or would you rather I didn't bring it up again?
Actually, I want to respond to ramblings of Ian. The voice acting in Bloodspire was pretty decent. I don't remember who exactly did the voice acting, but it was good. It was good. It wasn't like some of the audiobooks where the voice acting is cringeworthy. Bloodspire's voice acting was pretty solid.
Yeah, it's not Toby the heady heights of Toby Longworth, but it's definitely good. So yeah, so Encarmine doesn't go in, and Sanguinius. Do you want to put Sanguinius in? I'm ready to fight about this if you want.
Sanguinius, I don't want to put it in.
Good, because I don't want to put it in either. I feel bad enough that we've got Red Fury in there, to be honest.
Yeah.
So that's the Blood Angel Saga. In the other omnibooks, there are a few other tales, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm just not going to read them, because I don't want any more Blood Angels or any more James Swallow. I'm sure the Blood Angels are a good, hard fighting force. They just don't translate into text very well.
Yeah, the Blood Angels were a very popular Legion chapter with me for a while, but after reading them in depth, I just can't. Not anymore.
Nope. And while we're being depressed, should we just quickly mention Nemesis and Fear to Tread?
Yeah, at later dates, we more than likely will not be reviewing either.
No. Not properly.
Nemesis and Fear to Tread. Fear to Tread just was the last nail in the coffin for the destruction of the Blood Angels in the
manner of James Swallow.
The literary world. It really destroyed the Blood Angels. It eviscerated everything good about Sanguinius, and it was a crime. It was a crime.
Well, yeah. Frodo's right, apparently likes Nemesis. Did anyone like Fear to Tread? Did anyone read Fear to Tread and go, ooh, that was good? Anyone in chat room have any opinion on Fear to Tread? Because that was his chance to make up for everything, but he didn't. Good. God of Nothing agrees with us. Nope. I'd like to take a quick little bit on Nemesis. I'm not sure what it was. There was just something very clunky about the writing for the first 200 pages, and then it felt like about halfway through someone said, you really need to bucket your ideas, James, and it got a bit better, and it feels like someone, maybe Dan Abnett or Aaron Dembski-Belden, rugby tackled him 50 pages from the end, and someone else finished the book, because it just got a lot better in the last 50 chapters. 50 chapters? 50 pages. But still, it wasn't kind of good enough for me. But while we've kind of put the nails and put the hobnail boots into James Swallow, there is still excitement and joy, because next month, what's going to happen, Brett? We're going to do this.
Yeah.
What is this, Brett? What are these beautiful things I see before me?
Next month, we are going to be reviewing the Path of the Eldar trilogy. Seb has been reading Path of the Warrior these last couple weeks. I've already read Path of the Warrior, and I haven't read the next two just yet, but Path of the Warrior is amazing. And but yeah, we'll be doing those next week, and I look forward to that very much. And also tomorrow we are what are we doing?
Fluff.
We are
Talk.
talking about the Tau Empire tomorrow. Their culture, their military, their leaders, their backstory, their fluff, all their funky, awesome, good stuff, and how they are just as bad as the Imperium. They just look nicer on the outside.
Yep. Yeah, we got the Tau tomorrow. Tovy's asking, do we do any fantasy novels? At the moment, it's looking like we're going to do... so we got Eldar coming up, which I am excited about, because it's just possibly the greatest... Path of the Warrior might be the greatest book I've ever read. That's just a preview for next week, but next month. But then we're going to go Imperial Guard, and then the Night Lord. So maybe we might get to fantasy one day. We will hopefully do some fantasy one day.
Yeah, I was thinking that at some point we should, throw in a fantasy novel here and there. I've only read like one fantasy novel. I've wanted to expand a bit, but yeah, I'd like to at some point do fantasy. So eventually we can.
Maybe people could send us recommendations for things we could look at for fantasy when we eventually get around to fantasy.
Yeah.
We haven't done the Bastion Wars yet by Henry Zoo, but I've got them. We could possibly look at those at some point. It's just, yeah, month on month, there's so many books out there that are amazing to finally get to. We will get to them, as many of them as we can. And someone also asked, tomorrow Fluff Talk will be the same time, which is 1 PM Eastern, which is 6 PM UK British Standard Time. So this time again tomorrow for the Tau. And yeah, thank you very much for joining us. And I know, Fox, I was already there. Don't hey me. Dice Troop is everything we do is free. We put a lot of time and effort. Fox puts a lot of money in it. A few of us put some money into that, and we have a donate button on the Dice Troop page. So if you want to donate to us to help us do things, so yeah, that's something that you can be doing. But all this will always be free. Will always be free. And thanks for joining us. Well, I've also got a bit. Oh, that's what I meant to mention. I've got a humongous giveaway going over on Darth Sebius, and one of the prizes is this entire Blood Angels saga. It's the 4 separate books. They're not brand new, but they're the ones that I read and cried over. So that's kind of special in itself. So yeah, next month will be Eldar. Tomorrow is Tau Fluff Talk. Did I say the thing that Fox wanted me to say? Because I've kind of just been ignoring him, trying to make sure that I said the right thing. But have you got anything you want to add?
I'll add to that. All of this stuff is owned by Games Workshop and Black Library and the people who wrote it and all that. We don't own any of this. We are just fans doing our fan thing, reviewing our fan stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is all for the purpose of criticism and review, so it should all be fine anyway, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think, unless Fox has got anything else he wants me to say, because I am effectively his meat puppet as he is the Grand Master Dice Trooper. No, just beardy dudes from God of Nothing. So thank you for joining us. I'm going to go offline and we might come back and have a bit of a chat if people want to carry on chatting. But that was episode 2 of Black Vault. Say goodbye to the nice people. Yeah. See you guys tomorrow. Taddy bye.